Hey, everybody. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for being here. Welcome to Rise Up Evolutionary Conversations from the Emerging Paradigm. And I am so grateful to be here with you and to be here with Natalie Ledwell. Oh, wow, you all are in for a treat today. For this beautiful being is with us to share so much. I can't wait for you to get to know. Wait, if you don't already know, like if there's a person on the planet that doesn't already know Natalie, I can't wait for you to get to know her. So let me tell you a little bit about this beautiful being before we get into it. Just to introduce you, Natalie. Natalie Ledwell is a best-selling author and host of the podcast Not Over, Just Different. And she's co-host of a cable TV show called Wake Up and founder of Mind Movies, the hugely successful and revolutionary online personal development company that has reached over 5.8 million people worldwide. Right now, she's working on her brand new groundbreaking social and emotional learning curriculum entitled Personal Growth Studies, which is designed to empower youth from ages 5 to 18 years to live fully and successful lives and with high self-esteem and a vision of a bright future. In October of 2018, Natalie traveled to Liberia, where she met with government officials and launched the first pilot program of personal growth studies, which is now in its second year. And it's working with over 1,000 students. And in 2020, Natalie had the immense honor of being knighted by the Orthodox Order of St. John, a humanitarian group recognizing individuals who are not only doing great work, but who have a big vision of the work that they want to complete in the world and helping others. So we can now call her Dame Natalie Ledwell, and her sights are set on infiltrating the U.S. education system in 2020 with New Zealand and Australia following closely behind. And I just want to welcome you, Natalie, and make sure there was a little note that came in that they couldn't see you, but I'm hoping that everyone can see you now. So yes, I think we're on. So welcome, Natalie. Hi.
Hello, darling. How are you?
I'm fabulous. I love it. It's one of my favorite things when you go, "Hello, darling." You know, it reminds me of Cary Grant. That's what he used to say to walk in and go, "Hello, darling. How are you?" It's such a great thing. So thank you. I have to tell you how much I have enjoyed. You know, I get to hang out with you. We live close to each other. We get to go on bike rides together, and I'm just so enlivened by our time together. I wanted to be able to share that with others, you know. So, but first, I want to know. So, to start this conversation off, I'd really love to know, and for you to share with our guests today your experience at Rythmia, and specifically, you know, whatever you want to share about the experience, but specifically how it has been continuously impacting your life after Rythmia. So, you know, we say it's not just once you leave the resort, you had a great week, but that it's something that lasts. So I'd love to know how it's lasting in your life.
Oh, yeah. I think for me it was really showing me what I couldn't see. And it was the beginning of all of the work that I'm doing now. And I know, my story is, you know, I was married for 20 years to my ex-husband Glenn, but we're still business partners and we're still very good friends. And I know that when I separated from him, you know, one of the questions I would ask was like, what was my contribution? You know, what did I do to, you know, contribute to the end of my marriage? And I remember doing something called the Hoffman Process, which is a really deep, you know, thorough, goes into all of your programs and your parents' programs and where everything comes from and gives you a whole process on how to clear those things. And I remember going through that process and one of the teachers saying to me, because, you know, I had my stories like my biological mother left when I was 3 years old. And then Dad met Mum, who I call Mum because she's the only mum I know. And they got together when I was maybe 4 or 5. And so, you know, Mum had 6 kids from her previous marriage. Dad had me and my sister from his previous marriage, and then became 8 of us. But my mum and I had very a challenging relationship, let's just say. She didn't know how to handle me. I'm just like this big personality, and she's like, No, you're one of 8, So we had this very tumultuous relationship. And so when I was at Hoffman, I kept saying, look, they go, we need to look at, your mother leaving when you were 3. And I went, that has no effect on me. Like, I don't even remember it. It's my mum that we need to look at. She's the one that really ruined me, I remember the first time I was at Rythmia, because I was there a couple of times. The first time, we were going through the intentions, and it was the second night. It was, Brad's brew, which was my favorite.
Me too.
But I remember being outside on the hammocks outside. This is on the second night, and I'm looking up at the moon and the stars, and I'm just having this overwhelming feeling of gratitude. That this is my life and this is where I am, and that I'm going to do the work that I do. And, and I've realized now on a number of occasions that when I get into that place of gratitude, it's like the gateway to what's on the other side.
Yes.
And so then I felt like every wall that I had built up around my heart had just exploded off. And the love that I was feeling, like this was universal love. This was God love. I had tears streaming down my face. I'm just like, oh, wow. And then I'm realizing, well, if my heart can handle this amount of love, it can handle anything.
Wow.
So I don't need to guard it anymore. I'm like, wow, okay, this is amazing. So after I kind of calmed down for that a little bit, I got up and I went over to the fire, and I'm sitting there and I go, well, why did I guard my heart so much? And then it showed my mother leaving when I was 3 years old. And I got to see what happened. I got to see, why she left, the decision that she made. And for the first time in my life, I actually mourned the loss of her. And I had this big, ugly cry, and like all this emotion had come out that obviously was in there somewhere in my body, but I had no idea that it was in there. And then once I was able to do that cry and have that purge, then I was also able to forgive her. And before I would just be like, no, this is nothing. This doesn't even affect me. But it was such a clearing and such like a relief, and such a healing. It was incredible. And so, since then, and what I believe is that everything that was shown to me while I was down in Rythmia was the springboard for the work that I needed to carry on. So it showed me what I needed to work on. It wasn't the answer, but it was like, here's the understanding of it. This is what's happening, and now you need to do even more healing from here. And so, I'm realizing now through the work that I'm doing that a lot of my, especially in the end of my marriage, and even the relationship that I have with Glenn, and I joke that I've done more work in our relationship now since we've been apart than I ever did when we were together. And the beautiful thing is that Glenn is Glenn. He has, gorgeously shown up as himself the entire time. He hasn't changed. He hasn't changed for the person I met when I was 25 years old. But him being him and showing up in the genuine part of who he is has been this catalyst for me to have all these things that have been able to peel off. And so now I realize that a lot of the resentment, a lot of the the little niggles and judgments that I had of him were really going back from a place of my deep wound being abandonment, because my mother left when I was 3.
Yes.
And so I realized that, okay, so if I make him out to be the bad guy, then he didn't leave me, he didn't abandon me. I didn't want him anyway. So my subconscious mind is that powerful. It's trying to throw up all these different things so I don't feel the emotion of being abandoned, or feel the hurt of being abandoned. I never felt it at the time, but now I've got to realize all of that, actually feel the emotion. And the thing is, he hasn't abandoned me. Like, we're still friends and business partners. Like, he hasn't gone anywhere. It's just that the parameters of our relationship has changed.
And it was something that's unfolding for your good anyway.
Right. So it's been like a massive healing for me, and it's something that I would never have looked at before. Actually, I was like adamant that it was that action of my mother leaving when I was 3 had no effect on me, and it was the plant medicine that went, no, you need to look at this, because this is actually shaped who you are as a person more than you know.
Beautiful. This is what we see frequently is, I've heard this so many times from people that what's brought up in the ceremony is something that they were absolutely positive wasn't the issue at all.
Yes.
Whatever it was, like I'm not that. That's not even it. I really need to be over here. And the plant medicine shows us some new aspect. I'm really interested in also what you said, that it wasn't the answer, but it gave you direction.
Yes.
And we always say that it's 50%. The rest of your work, there's more work. It's not the panacea. You come down and something is activated, and now you have your work to do, which you so brilliantly, took on. One of the other things you said that I thought was so beautiful was gratitude is this gateway for you. And I love, because you're such a high performing individual with integrity. In every way that I know you, there's integrity in everything that you do. And I wonder if you might be a little vulnerable with us and
what, more than I just have been?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty vulnerable. But that was a good. I mean, but that you're ready to present that. I don't know if you're ready.
No, I am. Yes, absolutely, I am.
And I thank you.
I'm an open book, darling.
Yes, you are. Thank you. So, do you have times when you're like, I know I should be grateful, but fuck it, I don't even feel like being grateful right now? And how do you work to generate that? Like, we all know gratitude is the thing that can shift our feelings of separation and loneliness and anxiety and alienation and not enoughness and all of that. But sometimes I personally can't generate it. Do you find that? And what do you do, or how do you deal with it when that happens?
Yeah. So there's two parts to my answer to that. So I have a routine. I have a gratitude practice. Okay. And I don't necessarily write into a gratitude journal every day, although I do sometimes. But when especially since COVID, and I have this extra time and extra space that I don't have to be, doing multiple things at the same time. Like normally I'm, drinking a shake as I'm getting out of the shower and, answering emails all at the same time. Now I can actually sit down and have my smoothie in the morning, sitting on the balcony and just be, calm, which is one of the things I do when I'm practicing gratitude, or if I'm taking Bella out for a little wee walk in the morning, But my practice of doing that, because as we know, it's not just the writing down, it's not just the acknowledging, but you have to feel gratitude. The whole point of that exercise is to be in the frequency and the emotion of gratitude. And so what I do is I take a few deep breaths and I focus on my heart chakra. Mm-hmm. And I see my heart expanding, I see my chest expanding, and I see the light of my heart chakra just getting bigger and bigger, and then I go into my gratitudes from there. So I'm actually doing a physical thing and a mental, thing before I actually go into that. So I'm really magnifying mm-hmm. that emotion of gratitude. That really helps me to get there. But the other thing is that for a while there, I was finding it difficult to get into a space of gratitude. And I'm talking like there was a period of months where I couldn't find my joy, because I remember I did a session with a friend of mine, and he's like, what brings you joy? And I go, my work. And he goes, no, not your work. What brings you joy that's not your work? And I'm thinking, I don't know. I actually don't have an answer for that. Like, shoot, okay. So I was on a quest for that. But I think part of me getting back to that and back to my joy was, the second time I was at Rythmia. Mm. And I remember, was it the first night or the second? I can't remember. But anyway, and that was the first night. And the thing is, I had written myself some notes because the first time, I had a heart healing on the second night, but then I had my ass handed to me on the third night. So I'm like, okay,
it's kind of how it goes.
We don't want to go through that. We don't need to do that again. Surrender, breathe, all the little bits and pieces, call in your spirit guides. And so the next time I was definitely, I knew the terrain, I knew what I was getting into. And I also remembered that gratitude was the gateway. So I would be in this beautiful state of gratitude, before I, would have medicine, and it really totally positively influenced my journeys. But the first night, Mother Aya showed me that she said, look, you don't love yourself. And I'm like, what? me? I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. So she showed me a couple of situations. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I don't, And so I realized that I'd kind of got into this place where I wasn't tapping into my joy, and it was harder for me to get into my gratitude because, I was in this place where I kind of lost my mojo. Mm-hmm. And Mother Aya showed me what was happening, and she said, look, this is how it's showing up. This is how it's manifesting for you. And, of course, since then, I've been working on, well, why is that, and where has that come from? Why am I getting to this place? And, again, it had kind of got to this, I realized that, I was kind of feeling like I was the obligation ex-wife kind of thing with Glenn, and again it made me look at our relationship and how I was feeling about it, and then I had to completely change my power and my partnership with him, because I hadn't completely let go of I was the ex-wife and step into I'm the business partner, that brings value to the business and so forth. So I had to do a whole lot of that work. But if it hadn't been for Mother Aya showing me this is a blind spot that you can't see, I would never got to this place. And now I'm like completely in my mojo, completely in my power, contributing to the business, contributing to our relationship, and feeling like I'm on top of the world. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Yes. The piece where you said that this didn't, again, it showed me something that I wasn't willing to see before or wasn't able to see before. And that piece in this particular situation was self-love, was self-value and worthiness, which again stems back to our fundamental core wounding, which is this key piece, I think, of what all work is about, but especially the work at Rythmia, to really zero in on that core wounding that it causes this sense of separation. And all of that was generated by ourselves, right? We're the ones generating it. And this subtle shift in awareness has allowed you to recalibrate so many aspects of your relationship with Glenn and your business, and it has cascaded into you stepping more fully into who you really are.
But the other thing too, which is just still blows my mind, is how it permeates every area of my life. It was affecting my ability to make money. It was affecting my ability to show up as a business partner. It was affecting my ability to bring in new love, to be able to show up in this place of confidence and self-power, because I was seeing myself as lesser than. And so that's even affecting, the relationships that I was attracting. And it also affected my relationship with Glenn. So it was all intertwined and together, and it also was affecting my my body, because I wasn't feeling so good about myself. I'm putting on pounds, and it's which is really like a psychosomatic symptom of how I was really feeling about myself. So all of those areas were being affected by the same thing.
Yes, I mean, it feels like a self-fulfilling prophecy that we get ourselves into, right? What you're describing is the human condition. And that life responds to us at our level of recognition of it. We're recognizing, oh, I'm not enough, I'm not fitting in, I'm the extra, I'm the fifth wheel, I'm not valued, I'm not bringing value, right? And it's out picturing in our physical health, our relationships. It's literally self-fulfilling. Wow. That was very vulnerable. Thank you. I'm so grateful. And kind of on the same vulnerability track, I would like to know, I was having a conversation with a friend, a really powerful individual who's, if you looked at his life, Broadway singer and actor and, super successful. And he's trying to make this transition into the next phase of his life. And he's afraid. And he said to me, why can't I get over this fear? And we had a long conversation about that, which is another topic. But I would ask you also on in this same vulnerable track is, would you share with us what fears are you working with? What fears are you overcoming with currently? Is there something that's really in the forefront that you're tackling right now?
Yeah. Well, I've created this curriculum for schools, and this project I've tried to walk away from several times because the little me is like, you left school when you were 15, you don't have kids, who do you think you are, you're not really qualified to do this, blah, 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 that whole story, of which I've been able to overcome several times. But of course, I'm at the next step now. So the curriculum is created and the digital platform is built, but now it's like, now I have to go and talk to teachers and get out and.
I'm sorry. I want to interrupt you for just a second. Will you back up before you hear about the fear and explain this beautiful program that you're working on so people know what it is that you're talking about? Because it's brilliant.
Yes. Yeah. So this it's a social and emotional learning curriculum for schools. So it's anti-bullying, it's suicide prevention, it's anti-racism, it's helping kids to self-regulate their emotions, set personal standards. It includes yoga and meditation, but it also has things like gratitude and empathy and compassion and community work and basically giving them all the skills and the tools that they need to deal with the overwhelm, to understand and to self-regulate their emotions, to build their self-esteem, and to really have a fulfilling life. Like we're talking about life skills here.
Yes.
So, things that we wish we had have known when we were that age, and really, redefining the definition of beauty and a whole bunch of different things, and really, getting to have all of that involved. So the thing is, my fear is I'm at this next step that I need to go to is beyond what I've done before. I'm stepping into, I think, an arena that scares me, because now I'm dealing with educators and dealing with people that, that think differently to me, and they may look at me and judge me on my credentials. And so I'm putting myself in this very vulnerable, out there, not sure what I'm doing, trying to do my best situation. And so when we're stepping into the unknown like that, it is always scary. And the thing is, if we're not feeling fear as we're moving towards like an outcome like this, then we're really not going hard enough. Like, let's be honest. We got to be feeling some kind of fear, but we just don't stay there. It's like, well, what, who can I reach out to? Who do I know? How do I, get to this? And of course, I'm using all of the skills that I know, visualization, manifestation, and using, all of the people that I have around me in my network to be able to get us to this next level, which it looks like I've just broken through to now, which is just incredible and amazing. Yeah.
Yes.
So, fear, things like that always come up for me. But it's always when I'm stretching myself in. And, I remember when we started Mind Movies, I was 40 years old. And at the age of 40, I'm having to learn how to edit videos and build websites and write emails and all these things that I had never done before. And it was really uncomfortable and it was super stressful. But look at what we've been able to create and look at what we're doing right now. Now, I know the same thing is happening here. I'm having to learn all these different skills and things that I don't really know about and stepping into the unknown. But I know that then when I stay the course and I see that end result, and I'm eliciting everything that I know to manifest and, attracting what I need to make it happen, then what's on the other side of that is something that's so beautiful beyond my wildest dreams, that, I have to keep persevering. I have to keep moving forward. So, and the other thing too is realizing, in this whole piece of surrender, which was, the first time I was in Rythmia, I really learnt that one the hard way on the third night. After I purged up a kidney. But, this whole surrender into knowing, well, if it's not happening now, there's a reason for that. Because everything's happening in divine timing.
Absolutely.
So, I can get very impatient.
Me too. And I'd love to, you talked about in the curriculum, something that I wanted to touch with you about, because racism is part of the anti-racism, anti-bullying. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I've seen just observing in myself is that, right now there's not only this deep, loud, and reverberating call to transform our understanding of racism, to transform racism. And it's really finally being heard. But I find myself oftentimes reserving my comments or staying silent because I'm afraid that to be vulnerable, that I might reveal some of my own unconscious biases, right? And I'm afraid of offending people or afraid of getting caught not knowing what I don't know or being afraid of being accused of being a racist. Like I shared with you the other day, I was riding my bike and somebody pulled out in front of me and on the path, and I said, "Hey, you got to watch out." And they said, "Take your privilege elsewhere." and I was like, "Wait, I'm not. Wait a minute, I'm brown and gay. I'm not, like, wait." But that's this fear of like, I'm not a racist. I'm not. Well, we all have our biases. There's this, the Museum of Tolerance here in Los Angeles. You walk in and there's like two doors, and one door says, all who have no biases enter through here, and those who have biases and prejudices enter through this door. And if you go to the door that says all those who have no, it doesn't open. Everybody has to go through the other door. So, as you're teaching this curriculum of anti-bullying, anti-racism, and you yourself have been a wonderful proponent of, and really at the forefront of what's going on in the culture, in terms of your thinking and speaking about it publicly, I'd love for you to share how you navigate those waters of being afraid to speak or have your own biases revealed, or being accused of being something that you're not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, I agree with you. I think we all have a certain amount of judgment and bias and racism because, this is how our subconscious mind works. We will, based on all of our experience up until this point, we'll walk into a room and we'll look at different people that are in that room, and our subconscious mind is already starting to size up whether they are a threat, whether they are a friend, how we're going to communicate with them. And this is happening in split seconds. Right. Our subconscious mind processes 40 million bits of data per second. So this is doing this, without us even knowing, okay? So that's just how our brain works. Now, it depends on what our history is. I was sharing with you, I think the reason it's easy for me to talk about racism here is because I don't have any history in the US. I've only been here for 10 years. Every interaction I've had with someone of color in this country has been nothing but great. So, and there has been a number of interactions and experiences, and I have a number of friends who are Black. So it's not like, for me, it's like I can see it, because when I name white privilege and white fragility, it's like it kind of doesn't apply to me so much, and I don't have to get defensive because, it's like, well, I can see it from a different place. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's been easier for me to talk about it. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not prejudiced at all, or that I don't have any racism at all, or that I'm not aware of some of the microaggressions that, that happen every single day. And I was actually having a conversation with someone the other day, and they go, I think it's just happening too fast. If it wasn't just so, intense, and we can make the changes at our own pace. A white person was saying this to me. We can make it at our own pace. And he goes, what do you think about that? And I go, well, let's see. A Black person who lives in America has to deal with these, these biases and these microaggressions every day of their life. So I'm like, for us to go, oh no, it has to be the way that we like it, or the way that we can hear it, or the way that the speed at which we want to implement. I go, to me, that sounds like white fragility. That's like, don't tell me it has to be a certain way. It's time for it to change. And it's time for us to go, okay, well, these are the things that I can do. This is how I can use my platform. This is how I can positively influence other people. And these are the things that I'm specifically doing and taking ownership and responsibility for, so that I'm not perpetuating the system that already exists.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love that. And I love that you, I just love the way that you, what was, I guess, so impressive to me, or what made an impression upon me, was your willingness to take this on head on. And while I wasn't even aware, I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to quite jump into the fray. And I came to this understanding that I kind of shared with you, my own fear of having my own biases revealed. And the immediate clinging to, wait, I'm marginal. I'm marginal. You can't accuse me of that. But there's bias on both sides, right?
Absolutely. And the way that I approached it, especially the first broadcast that I did, that I was like straight into all of it.
Right.
And I started the broadcast by going, I'm going to apologize in advance if I say something that may offend you. I said, but I'm willing to be schooled.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know everything yet, but I am making it. And I've been reading books. I've been doing courses. I have different information that's coming in. I'm part of a book club that, all of the books that we're reading are specifically on this subject. So, I'm doing what I can to really educate myself and to do better. So I'm like, if I make a mistake, I'm so sorry, but I'm open to being schooled. And then I just went from, this is what I'm taking responsibility for myself, and this is what I encourage you to do as well. So it was always from a place of, this is how I'm going to make a difference, and so leading by example.
Beautiful. And you have led by example in your life in so many ways. And I want to move now into Mind Movies, which is this brilliant platform which has touched so many people. It's personally touched my life, and I want to talk about Mind Movies. But first, I would love to know. I've never asked you this. How did it unfold that you were able to get this into the Joe Dispenza platform as an intricate part of his meditation retreats?
Yes. So, Mind Movies, for those people that are not aware what a Mind Movie is, it's basically a visualization tool.
Yes.
We know that if we're leveraging the law of attraction and we want to create an outcome, obviously it needs to be a thought first. But if we can have a thought with intention and visualize ourselves already in this future as if it's happening now and feeling the emotions of what it's like to already be there, then we are becoming a vibrational match to those things. And we're creating new neural pathways in our brains so that we've got these more positive thoughts that are in alignment with this future. So a Mind Movie is basically like a vision board. Except rather than just being a static board that you sit up on the wall, it's actually a little movie slideshow that you create. And we've got software that helps you create this. That's a combination of affirmations, photos, and music.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, so it's very comprehensive, and the music helps to emotionally get you as a vibrational match, and they're just amazing. But Dr. Joe and I have a mutual friend that introduced us. And he showed Dr. Joe on my movie, and from the very get-go, Dr. Joe's like, oh, he saw why they were so powerful. He saw how he could incorporate that, and so he came into the office in San Diego at the time, and met me first, and we just got on like a house on fire. And then he met Glenn, and of course they got on like a house on fire. And then he invited Glenn and I. Glenn and I were still together at the time, to go up to Seattle. And we stayed at the ranch up there, the beautiful, with the dancing horses and the beautiful Buddhas and I called it the Enchanted Forest. It was incredible, the property that they had up there. And we went to the first progressive workshop. And I remember being in the workshop going, oh my God, I'm home, because I love Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden, and of course Dr. Joe. So I'm into all this stuff. And I can remember we were doing the first meditation, and so we're sitting there, and I can hear Glenn behind me, and Glenn's not really into this kind of stuff, and I can hear him breathing and shuffling around, and in my mind I'm like, I could kill you right now. Stop.
Don't embarrass me.
And I'm like, ooh, that's not healthy. There was only a few months after that Glenn and I separated, and out of all of the people that we knew and everyone that we talked to, when I spoke to Dr. Joe about it, he went, oh yeah, could see that happening. I'm like, what? He goes, you guys were so energetically disconnected, because the second day of the progressive, there was like 3 meditations, and Glenn didn't get there first thing in the morning, and I called him and said, don't bother coming, you're going to hate it. So he went off to gay pride and had some fun, and I caught up with him later after I did all my meditations. So that was kind of the beginning. So we get on very well personally, Dr. Joe and I, but we have a really great business relationship.
Yes.
And the fact that I've been able to personally help thousands of people make their mind movie,
thousands and thousands and thousands. I mean, Mind Movies on all of his retreats, which are in the thousands. But I guess you personally you go to a lot of the retreats. Yeah,
not as much as I used to, and obviously there's none happening live at the moment, right. But we're talking about how we're going to do that virtually. But so in the beginning I used to go, he used to have like maybe 5 a year that I would go to, and just it's the transformation, and the thing with the Mind Movie, it's not just making a slideshow or making a video, it's the whole process of getting clear about what it is that you want first. And I don't know how many people that that go into the workshops that I'm in, and like, oh, I don't want to do this. Dr. Joe said I had to, and then by the end, in 45 minutes, when they finish their mind movie, and they play it for the first time, they're crying because it's this emotional overwhelm, because you're like, oh, now I see it. Now I see my future. Yes. Like it just instantly helps to build this belief that it actually is possible.
Well, and not only mind movies as this amazing expression. I personally love to watch my mind movie before I go to bed. Like, let me just watch that, and then have that be the level of thinking. And in my prayer work, I also have begun to utilize that thought of, let me envision, when I'm moving my prayer work out of praying around things that I'm working on, and moving, putting we over me at some point. You move into that state of, let me really pray for peace in Lebanon right now, or let me pray for peace in the United States, or healing, or whatever it is, that I can hang out, because of the mind movie technology, I can actually hang out in my own awareness, visualizing that possibility on a global scale, right? Like it's built up a muscle in my own capacity to visualize. It's beautiful. And
that's one of the good things about doing the medicine as well, because I've been working with Dr. Joe for like 8 years, and we do the meditations, and we're doing the breathing, and we're concentrating, and we're, in the blackness, and so it's taking us there, and it's like, a couple of hours of meditation, you do this medicine, bang, you're right there. So the cool thing is that when I started doing meditations after I'd been to Rythmia the first time, it's like I know where I'm going, because Mother Aya took me there. So I know where I'm ending up, So it was easier for me to get there, because even though, before I would be trying really hard, I'm like, I don't know if I'm quite getting it. But once I had done the medicine, I'm like, oh, now I know where I'm going.
And where can people find out? I mean, obviously mindmovies.com, but is there a place where you would recommend that they go to find out more about mind movies?
Yeah, mindmovies.com is the best website. All of our products and programs are there. But what's also there is access to the podcast, which is, not over, just different.
I wanted to that was my next question. I want you to tell me about this podcast for women of a certain age.
Yeah, it's a respectable age, darling. But I also have the inspiration show. There's like 800 videos of interviews that I've done. There's a lot of free content. And you can also download 6 free pre-made mind movies that so you get an idea of what a mind movie is. You can watch the one on wealth or confidence or whatever, and actually see yourself in that future. So they're really powerful. You can get that from that website as well. So the podcast. So it's really interesting, because Glenn came to me one day. He goes, right. He goes, I think you start doing a podcast. I'm like, really? And he goes, yes, I think it's a great idea. I'm like, all right. And I said, well, I don't want to talk about law of attraction and manifestation. I do enough of that with mind movies. If I'm going to do a podcast, I want to do something that really kind of is, that I feel passionate about, or something that's really relevant to me. And so I'm like, I want to do one for women, middle-aged women, let's just say, women of a certain age, and all the things that we go through, because I realize that, for myself, and I think a lot of women are the same, sometimes we'll go through different things with our relationships, with our business, with our, own inner self, with our health. But we don't share, we don't talk about it, we don't share it with other women. But if we were able to open up those conversations, then I think that, we'd be able to get more support, more help as we're going through these different things. So the podcast is very candid conversations about everything, from, divorce and dating and marriage to, sex and, masturbation and all those kind of things, but then also about our health and our, our hormones and all those, and that as well. And even things like what female friendship looks like at this time in our life, and all the things that we can struggle with. And my purpose is to model what it's like to have an open and candid conversation about some subjects that may be a little bit taboo or a little bit, embarrassing or whatever, so that we can have a better support system set up around us.
It was beautiful. I enjoyed, as part of my preparation in talking to you, I got to listen to a few podcasts. I really enjoyed them. Ariel Ford's podcast was fabulous. Is it Alice Trueblood? I can't remember now. I think it was one of your latest ones, was really great on, I was picking up stuff, right? And I'm certainly not a woman of a certain age. Although I'll pay
it's relevant to men as well, but
totally.
It's specifically for women.
Really, really great. Now, I know that you are like also one of the busiest people on the planet, even though you said you have time to drink your smoothies now.
Yes.
But I want to honor your time because I know you have another, I think you have your podcast, right? You're going to move right from this into the next thing.
Yes.
So there were so many things that I wanted to talk to you about that I didn't get to touch on, which is always the way it goes. But I would love two final questions that kind of are questions that I'm kind of ending every podcast with, which is there one thing, so the question one, is there one thing that you would want, an interesting fact or a tidbit? It could be about yourself or just a random piece, about anything that you think people should know or that you want to share. That's the first question. The second is, if you could put yourself in my shoes, what is the question that you would have asked that I didn't?
Oh, God, okay. Let's see. So what's something, a tidbit? I don't know. I think, and this is what I normally share, because normally I'm talking about the mechanics of, manifesting the life that you want and so forth. But what I've realized, especially from my two experiences down in Rythmia, is that, is having the strength to look at the dark corners. Look at the things that, because what's stopping us from really stepping into this next level is the things that we don't want to look at.
Yes.
And so if we can have the courage and the strength to do that, it will, like I feel like I've done a 180-degree turn this year because I was really willing to go dive deep on, and some of the things. And it's not comfortable and it's not fun some of the times, and other times it's really relieving and it's, it's expanding. But unless I have the courage to do that, I think it's difficult to go into the next level. So that's really important. A question that you hadn't asked.
Yes.
Let's see. I don't know. I think we've had a great, as we were saying before, I think that, what comes through when I do these, these interviews and these chats is is what's meant to come through. And I don't have a preconceived idea, and it's and I think we kind of covered a lot of really juicy stuff today. So.
I think so too. I'm so grateful. I'm grateful on so many levels. I'm grateful for the generosity of your time to come join us on this conversation. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for the ability that we had to meet at Rythmia and in other settings. And I'm certainly grateful for the juicy, fun, relaxing, enlivening time that we get to spend together here in Marina del Rey.
Yes.
So thank you, Natalie Ledwell. You're amazing. And I wish you continued joy and success, that you are walking in the sunshine of life, always on the path of continuous unfoldment. Thank you, my dear.
Thank you, darling.
All right.
Thank you.